Did collecting used to be better? Well, depending on who you ask, everything used to be better. But as a near lifelong collector, I've seen a lot of changes over the years. That is what we're going to be discussing this week on the Videocast, the various ways collecting has changed, how it's gotten worse, or better, and maybe debunk some of the myths about those good old days. As always, I'm your host Brian, and this video is being produced to promote the release of my book, The Nostalgia Economy, which is now available over on our Patreon in ebook and audio forms. Physical copies on sale soon. It's all about collecting, collectible markets, memories, and nostalgia. $5 gets you access to that and dozens of exclusive videos. You can also become a member here for $1 on YouTube. So if you like what we do and want to see more, help make it happen, please consider supporting us. Patreon.com/PixandPortraits. Now, a lot of what we looked at so far revolves around retro collectibles. We've seen how the nostalgia economy works, the thrifts and grifts, as well as both the financial and emotional cost of collecting, even how to start, sustain, and sell a collection. Check out those videos if you haven't already. I want to start today by looking at the recent-ish evolution of collecting. Humans have always hoarded and collected artifacts to remind them of their lives and history. Traditionally, these were unique items because of the way things were made, but as manufacturing processes became easier, products could be produced faster and in larger quantities. This period overlapped with the rise of mass communication, radio, and later television. Shows were broadcast all over the country, sponsored, paid for by companies who advertised their products alongside them. So, these companies could mass produce and market their products to millions of people every day. Merchandise was created, and memories were born. Jump ahead a couple of decades, and it's those memories that fuel people's desire to return to these times through this merchandise. Given how popular and widespread these properties were, this desire was shared by many. The baby boomers started this, modern, retro collecting, but this process is repeated every generation, sometimes even with the same franchises. This is what we talked about in our video on ephemerality in collecting. Vintage or retro collecting is only one aspect of collecting, but it's what we spend the most time on because it's what the book's about. It's what I'm interested in. Retro collectible markets, especially since the pandemic, have exploded. Some prices have come down, but overall, things are still much higher than they were pre-pandemic. People can collect anything can be collectible, but it's hard defining what exactly makes something a collectible. Is it rarity? Is it how old it is? Antiques are old. What is the difference between antiques and collectibles? Is it how much time has passed? Just semantics? Personally, I think it's helpful differentiating between antiques and collectibles. Collectibles are related to pop culture. The nostalgia shops of the 70s, 80s, even into the 90s, focused on kitschy items from movies, music, and TV. Time keeps going, and what was new and modern then is now considered retro. Again, collecting is not new. Collectible markets have existed for years, but did it used to be better? Why is this even a question? Well, there are a lot of negative things about collecting. We've established that pretty well on this channel. Every market is different, but the general consensus, as far as I've seen at least, is these hobbies aren't as fun as they used to be. We have a video on Patreon where I talk about my collecting journey. I have always collected, but I started seriously or intentionally collecting when I was in high school in the mid-2000s. Media mostly, movies and video games, and this was the best time to do it. There were multiple console generations or new formats that switched over, and old was exchanged for new. People still saw them as toys, in terms of the games at least, and would practically give them away at yard sales. The thrifts were not smartened up yet. They were not asking market price. This also coincided with the decline of video rental, which we lament sometimes here, but shops would liquidate their stock and make room for new releases, or because they were shutting down, you could get some amazing deals. All of that changed with the internet. I think one of the biggest complaints about modern collecting is how saturated the markets have become and everything that comes with that. This used to be a niche thing. Not everyone was into it or even knew it existed. There weren't as many people on the hunt. Things associated with collecting also weren't as popular. Comics, Marvel, going to a Comic-Con or playing video games just wasn't cool. Properties like Star Wars, you would be mocked for liking. Now they're huge, incredibly popular. So is nostalgia. People want the things they grew up with. Only so many were made, there were only so many left, supply and demand, and so prices rise. In some cases, prohibitively so, depending on the item or franchise, not to mention the investment class getting involved with their speculation. Toys and entertainment from the past have been commodified and gobbled up as part of diversified portfolios or money laundering schemes. These stories get media attention, people see it, they think what they have is worth a lot of money, they know what they have. When selling, they ask top dollar. Deals are scarce. Scarcity is also manufactured, limited drops and lotteries. Hype, don't miss out. If you do, you end up paying much more to scalpers or resellers on the secondary market. Hustle culture, go to any thrift store and you will probably see someone scanning everything, using an app to determine if it's worth anything, seeing if they can flip it on eBay. This is more or less the state of modern collecting. It sounds pretty awful when put like that, but it's easy to forget that a lot of this stuff has been prevalent in collecting for decades. Comic books and sports cards are great examples. These have sold for small fortunes for years. Certain products have been released in limited quantity. Stuff goes out of print. Many items would not be easily accessible. These hobbies used to be a lot harder. It used to be much more difficult to find things. If no one was selling something locally, you'd have to track it down. For new items, you'd have to line up in public, and even then, you might not get one. Sure, you might be paying a lot for it now, but you can probably get it with the click of a button, and things have always been expensive, comparatively. Production is even easier today. It used to be only the most popular or profitable IPs would get licensed merch due to the cost of making them. Today, any property can have products, no matter how niche. There are boutique collectible companies owned by people who know what collectors want, making products with them in mind. The quality of goods has increased dramatically. So, did collecting used to be better? Like nostalgia, that is subjective. Nostalgia is capable of glossing things over or discounting things. Some of the stuff I pointed out here is negative, like a more challenging hunt. Some people might miss. They also might take for granted just how easy it is now. It might be expensive, but with a few exceptions, you can pretty much access anything you want. So, in some ways it was better, in some ways it wasn't, but overall, I think it's pretty similar. Let me know in the comments what you think. How long have you been collecting for? What changes have you noticed? Do you think it used to be better? Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share, and if you have the means, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to my book and dozens of videos and help keep all this going. Become a member, give a super thanks, everything helps. Patreon.com/picsandportraits. As always, thank you so much for your interest in this channel, and thanks for watching. See you in the future.